Thank you. It's an honor to be here. When I was a child, I remember my parents sitting me down to watch a mini-series movie on TV called Roots. And they wanted me to watch this movie to teach me about what once happened in this country, where my fellow human person, our neighbors, were treated like pieces of property. And they told me about a relative of mine, a great uncle named Abraham Lincoln, who signed a document to free slaves. And they told me about the courage of the people that stood up against slavery. And then in school I started to see films of what happened in Germany and Europe with the Nazi Holocaust. And my parents taught to me about people that would be willing to hide Jews in their homes and risk their life to save these people. And as a young child, I thought to myself, if I lived in those times, would I stand up? If I had lived in a time when my fellow human person was treated like a piece of property, would I have stood up? Would I have risked anything to stand up for their lives, for their freedom, for their personhood? Now, I went astray in my life. And my life went into a life of drugs and Satanism. Until at the age of 20, as Psalm 40 says, Christ lifted me up out of a pit of horrible mud and miry clay. And He set my feet upon a rock, that rock being Jesus Christ. Amen. And He put a new song into my mouth. And as I turned my life over to Christ instead of the life I used to live, I realized I didn't have to imagine if I had once lived in that time. Because I did live in that time. As I started to learn what was going on in buildings like this across our country, started to realize that every day in my nation, 4,000 of my brothers and sisters were losing their personhood, were losing their life. Not because of the color of their skin or their religion, simply because of their age. Simply because of their age. And I realized as I was a kid and I asked myself, would I stand up? Now I had to answer myself. Now I had to answer myself. Am I going to stand up? So I decided I was going to do a little bit of pro-life work. I was going to do a one-year mission trip with a pro-life group, and then I could say I've done my part. So I joined a group in California. And one of the things that we used to do was called a truth team. You can't do it anymore because of the face laws. But me and a young girl would go into an abortion clinic. She would ask for a pregnancy test, and while she was in the back room and I was in the lobby, we'd fill everything we could with pro-life literature and pray that would reach people. Now, this girl that I would go in with was about 14 years old. I was over 20. And we would act like we were a couple. Never once did anyone question the fact that I was with such a young girl. This young girl was 14 years old and she was a virgin. Two times that we went into abortion clinics in Los Angeles, the doctor came out and said to this young 14-year-old who was a virgin, yes, you are pregnant. Give us $250, we'll take care of it right now and we'll never tell anybody about you two. Twice, in separate abortion clinics, they were willing to take the money and perform an operation on a virgin, telling her she was pregnant. And then one day we walked into an abortion clinic in downtown Los Angeles that was set up for illegal immigrants. There was over 20 women in the hallway, another 20 or so in the waiting room. And the girl went behind into the room, and I sat there putting Spanish literature in the magazines. But it took her a long time to come out. And I started to get worried. And I walked up to the counter, and right behind the counter was a door that opened. And it was the procedure room. And as I looked in that door, I saw a 16-year-old girl on her back, as the man reached down to start the abortion right in front of my eyes. The girl's head was turned towards me, and there was tears pouring out of her eyes. And I witnessed a human person killed in front of me, and a young girl probably emotionally damaged for the rest of her life. And I realized at that moment, how can I ever say I've done my part? This wasn't just an issue. This was life and death. This was my generation being killed 4,000 times a day. And I actually had the goal to say, well, I've done my part. And I realized from that moment, in 1993, that the rest of my life was going to be dedicated to bringing an end to child killing in my country. To bringing an end to the killing of innocent children. You see, this is not just an issue. This is not just a political issue. There are human persons in that building losing their life. If we were to go to every church in this community and we were to tell them that there's a daycare center down the street and a man with a knife was going to walk into that daycare center and he was going to kill every 3-year-old, every single member of every church would be in front of that daycare center as fast as they could be.
That's right. Right.
There is only one difference between the children that die in that building and the children that would die in that daycare center, and that's their age. That's it. So why is it that every single church in this community is not in front of this place? I'll tell you though, I have not seen these kind of numbers in front of an abortion mill since 1996. And I thank God for this community. And I thank God for what you guys are doing here. I want to tell you though, this cannot get smaller. This must get larger. So many people think that that's the darkness and we're the light, and that darkness and light are opposites. I'm here to tell you that darkness is not the opposite of light. Darkness is the absence of light. If you take a dark room and you turn on the light, the darkness flees. You cannot take a light room and just turn on the darkness. The only way for the darkness to exist is to take the light away. We are the light, and we must bring the light into the darkness. I will answer. They kill both little girls and boys. I'll answer some questions after. Let me finish up a little. I appreciate it. You know, a lot of people may think to themselves, well, I'm young. And this is for the young people here. This is for the youth here. You might think to yourself, well, I'm young, I'm one person, what can I do? What can I do as a young person? I might have to face ridicule at my school, or people making fun of me or teasing me or something. And I want to point you to a young person in the Bible. A young woman named Esther. Esther was a young woman who was a queen. And her generation was going to be killed. And her cousin Mordecai came to her and asked her to go to the king and plead for her generation.